Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game SO. Today I got a fun and ultimately disappointing episode for you guys this evening because we're going to be talking about what's inside this re-release of D and D's Diner Director's Cut. Limited Run Games put this up for pre-order last year, and apparently in this sealed box is nothing more than blank CDRs that they have burnt and called a game. It is absolutely insane. I've never heard of anything like this, and this is a sealed box, so we're going to open it up and find out what's going on. But honestly, I cannot believe that this has actually apparently happened. I've never heard of a company, especially limited run games, being this cheap. And to say I am a fan of D would be an understatement. I have all of the games. I spoke with Kenji Eno multiple times when he was alive about the development of the 3DO M2 version and even released prototypes of that for people to play. So the reason I purchased this was not because I needed a copy of it. I own multiple copies for 3DO. I wanted to support the project because I thought maybe it would get more people into the world of Kenji Eno, and anything like this, a game that I love and always advocate for, I will purchase and just put it on my shelf so I can think to myself, I've done what I can to try to support this, and maybe we'll see more in the future. And again, I absolutely love this series. I've spent a lot of time trying to find a working prototype of D2 for the 3DO M2, and the files I was able to actually recover I released for free for everyone to see. That way they could experience at least a little bit of what the original D2 was supposed to be. So when I purchased this, I thought to myself, maybe Limited Run Games will then get the rights to something like Enemy Zero or D2 and try to re-release those as well, because that trilogy is absolutely special. It kind of transcends the barrier as games of art, and I just wanted to see more people enjoy it. So I went ahead, pre-ordered a copy, and it took about a year to arrive. And this is what I got in the box, and you will see I waited to open this on camera. Not that I think anyone would distrust me, but I'm going to show you exactly what's inside of a sealed copy of this game. And this I've never seen before, honestly. I've purchased many limited edition games from many different vendors, and I've never once opened up the box and found something like I'm going to find inside. I found out about this maybe yesterday afternoon, and I knew I was going to make a video because it was just absolutely mind-boggling that such a large company would try to pull something like this off on all of their fans. I will say, as far as the case design is concerned and all of the actual packaging, they did a good job on this. They clearly spent some money somewhere on reproducing D and the director's cut and re-releasing it for fans. But here's the thing about CDRs. Not every single 3DO loves to play them. If your laser's weak, if you have a gold star unit, you could end up with a copy of a game for a system that you wouldn't actually be able to even play in the first place. And I'm just going to open up the entire packaging on camera so you see everything that comes with this. And honestly, for the $65 plus shipping they're asking, it really isn't that much whatsoever. And the box, again, it's something nice, but honestly, it doesn't matter compared to what's inside of the case. And you will see here that the jewel case for the game is still sealed as well. I wanted to make sure I did all of this on camera. You get one poster with the set, and honestly, because this is a re-release of Director's Cut, I was expecting to have the same things in the box that D's Diner Director's Cut would have on 3DO, but that just was not the case. And that might be a minor complaint, but it's really what's inside of this jewel case you're going to see in a moment that is absolutely going to blow your mind in all of the worst ways possible. And I will say that for a director's cut, I wish they had used the artwork from the director's cut edition. This release doesn't make a ton of sense in and of itself. It has the original D as well as director's cut, but the director's cut really is the kind of quintessential version of the game, so I kind of wish they had done the artwork from there. But again, a completely sealed copy that I will open up on camera and show you what is inside. And I clearly think I've spoiled it by this point in time, but every single disc in this package is a cheap burnable disc. You could go to Walgreens and literally just go on archive.org, grab the game files, and create your own limited run games version of this game. Even the jewel case with all of these different foldouts, it's cheap, it's feel like it's falling apart in my hand. Overall, this feels like nothing more than an absolute huge cash grab, trying to get nostalgic fans of 3DO and this franchise to drop a ton of money on what amounts to absolute junk. The discs weren't even secured, and if you can't already tell, that is absolutely a CDR. They did not press this game onto discs, they just burnt it. And before you get down below and say, well, it's a limited release and these things are expensive to actually actually replicate. I have produced many films in my life, all of which have gone to DVD replication. I've gone through the glass mastering process and had runs between 500 and 10,000 discs made at once. It is not that expensive. Limited Run Games should not be selling these things to anybody on CDRs, and apparently this isn't the first time they've done this. There was a re-release of Monkey Island, and one of the discs was completely broken. It would not read in anybody's disc players, and they sent out replacements, and those are also on CDRs. I have never seen this level of cheapness and absolute hiding the fact that this is what's going to happen. It's nowhere on the sales page that these are burnt discs. When you buy something from Limited Run Games, you expect an actual game, not a CDR with some artwork on top. And hilariously, the only disc in this entire set that actually is replicated is the 3-disc soundtrack. So clearly they spent money somewhere replicating discs. I just don't know why they did it on the soundtrack. That's the one thing that if they did a CDR on, I'd be disappointed but would understand. And you'll see here the first telltale sign is the artwork going all the way through into the spindle. You don't usually see that on pressed discs. And again, not every single 3DO will even be able to run these. This only works on 3DO. It's not like there's a version in here that's going to work on Windows. And as they turn it around, if you can't already tell, that is 100% just a blank disc that has been burned and put into a retail package. I'll zoom in a little bit. You can even see where the burn ends on the edge here, where they didn't utilize the entire disc space because they didn't need it. For all we know, they could have just got this thing on the internet and popped it on a disc. This is the equivalent of what you're giving Limited Run Games money for this re-release. And if you know me in the channel, I do not do angry videos like this where I basically just shit talk something. But honestly, this is what you should just make. This is Dee's Diner Director's Cut right here, and if you can't get the joke, my drawing isn't that good. But honestly, there is no reason to try to buy this thing, and it seems like it's sold out. The only reason, again, I purchased it was to support a re-release from a creator that I absolutely love. Honestly, Dee's Diner Director's Cut for the 3DO isn't even that expensive, and it's relatively readily available to acquire, so absolutely nobody should buy the Limited Run Games version of this at this point in time. On smaller complaints, they couldn't even match the color of the artwork. Sure, there's blue, there's black, and there's red, but they are so off in the different shading. You can clearly tell that at least black got close, but when we get to the red disc, it's absolutely no way, shape, or form even remotely resembling the color that they used. That's a small complaint, but honestly, when you buy something like this, you would expect them to be able to try to match things as closely as possible, but I'm sure because these are CDRs, they couldn't get that great of artwork. The only thing that kind of matches is the soundtrack disc, but they just didn't do the mini disc for that, and honestly, I totally understand that as well. It's not that big of a deal, but on the right you have original discs, on the left you have a cheap CDR that you could have gone to CVS and purchased. And again, with all of the stuff in the actual Dee's Diner Director's Cut, all of the different posters and little feelies you get here, that's what I kind of thought was going to be in the box, honestly, and I didn't really read the listing that closely, so this isn't my major complaint. But if you want to spend $70, $80, just buy the actual game for this. Although don't ever try to take the manual apart, it is the most maddening thing in the world. You'll never be able to put it back together. But obviously this is what you expect when you buy something from Limited Run Games. Pressed discs. They've been releasing games for a very long time, and now suddenly they're shipping something on a CDR, and again, some 3DOs are going to struggle with or not be able to play the game whatsoever, so you may just spend $70 on something that will just be spit right back out of your 3DO. And sure, you get a poster in the box, but I wish they'd left the poster behind and given us actual discs. This is what I think Limited Run Games needs to do. First, they need to issue an apology to everyone who purchased this, that this was a mistake and they are going to rectify it. Secondarily, they need to actually replicate the game discs and issue them back to every single person who bought a copy of this so they can put them in their cases. And if they're not able to do that, anything other than a complete refund makes it feel like a straight up ripoff. And again, with the original manual in Dee's Diner Director's Cut, never try to open this thing. You will end up ripping it. I can guarantee it on that one. But this is embarrassing. Sure, they put a manual in the box, but who cares about these things? We now know in the future when you buy something from Limited Run Games, if it's not for a modern console, you could very well just end up with a CDR in a box. That's not why we pay them money for these things. That's not why we buy games. If we wanted a collection of CDRs on our shelf, we would just buy a spindle at Walgreens and start burning them. I cannot believe Limited Run Games tried to put CDRs into a release and sell it for retail pricing. I have never seen this before from a company this big. It's absolutely disappointing for any game, and it's even more so disappointing for one of my favorite games of all time. So if you bought this thing and you have haven't opened it up yet, be aware. You should probably contact Limited Run Games and say, I don't want CDR, send me real discs. This just sucks. We are done, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.